Peter?
Peter, I'm allowed to call you Peter. That's cool. I'm Peter. Brilliant. Very good.
Well,
we're off to a good start.
I'm relieved to say most of the people do. And that, you know, when people call me Sir Peter, I tend to say,
it's official. It's official business.
Well, it's a bit like your Sunday name, you know. So my mother only calls me Peter on Sundays, you know, or when she's very cross.
You normally get called Jonathan.
Actually, she calls me Pete the rest of the time. And there are some people here who've been around long enough to still call me Pete.
Now, when we first met, I think it was, I was trying to find the date and I couldn't actually find it. And I know Rory was your media guy then, wasn't he? And I contacted all of the MPs. I still haven't met Keith Vaz, so there we go, 5 years on. I think it was Patricia Hewitt at the time. She met me, and that was quite interesting. And you were the second person that had agreed to see me. And like I said, the first question you said was how far you'd got. What do you remember of that meeting? I don't mean word for word. You've had many since then.
Well, I don't remember word for word. You know, you're right. I remember that I was impressed by your enthusiasm for it. I was impressed by the fact that you already got quite a number of other people enthused by it as well, and that it struck me as having the potential to begin to use new media, particularly, but stuff that's local, particularly locally generated, in a way that was obviously creative, but also I think very good for you know, Leicestershire talking to itself.
Because when we were kind of planning for today, and I was talking to Tina, even 5 years ago, new media was really new media. And then, when does it not become new media? I'm not quite sure. When it's 200 years old, and then it's the next new media. And I think things are changing constantly. And now, when you look at Citizens Eye, we can like live stream with Bambuza and Ustream and all these things. Back then, we couldn't. It was still YouTube. So it's quite interesting to see how things have developed. So obviously, we're at our 5th Community Media Week, and this is day 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick through. I went back through our Flickr set to find some pictures.
Not one of my better photos. I look as if I've been boozing.
Well, I look better though, don't I?
It's the glasses.
He's an interesting chap, isn't he? I've never met him. He's actually quite a fascinating character. And I think it wasn't. Was it shortly after that he kind of got himself in a little bit of trouble on the television? Was it just after that? Or was it just before that when he came? I can't remember now. Simon, probably.
Just after that.
It was just after, wasn't it? He got in trouble with the one show and something. I think it was, wasn't it? So you were an MP then. How long were you an MP for, Mr. South?
I did 6 years. Elected 2005. Re-elected 2010. Resigned on April Fool's Day. In 2010. Yeah, well, my late wife did actually make some jokes about that. I think she was actually probably being quite serious, because obviously I was standing down. Actually, 2011, of course. I guess so. It was April Fool's Day. So it was almost exactly 6 years. Stood down then, really just in order to fight this election. Basically, arguing to her that. Still a fairly good chance of winning. No certainty, of course, there never is in politics, but still a very good chance of winning, and that it would enormously help the credibility of what I was saying to Leicester people if I said to them, look, I've given up the other job. There's no question of me doing 2 jobs. I'm absolutely committed to this one. Whether I'd have done it if I was a bit more doubtful, yeah, well, I don't know. You know, I hope I would, but I think, you know, by then I was fairly confident that there was a groundswell of support and I was likely to get it. It was a risk worth taking.
Did you have more interest in being the city mayor, not just because it was the first, but city mayor because you'd been the leader of the council, rather than just a city council? Yeah,
probably. I mean, I deliberately stayed in local government, perhaps until quite late in my career, never really expecting ever to become an MP, because some of you here will remember Jim Marshall, who was the MP for Leicester South, died very suddenly of a heart attack in 2004. I thought the by-election that followed from that didn't win it, and then actually regained the seat for Labour at the general election, which was in the spring of the following year, so about 8-10 months later. So I didn't really intend to be an MP as part of my sort of, you know, career trajectory. I'd enjoyed local government. I've never had any regrets of having stood down as an MP, and I've said only half jokingly on a few occasions since that the difference between being an MP and being a mayor is that being a mayor is a real job. And actually I said that to a Guardian journalist who quoted it. But of course, I know nobody here will quote it, does it?
Well, I'm not saying anything you can say. Now, obviously, this is probably how most of the computing reporters in the room, particularly Andy, I think, and Simon will remember you when you was an MP. We'd only ever bump into you at events, specific things, when you were, greeting someone like that, or you were opening something. And how do you now divide your time between people asking you to open things, and we'll come on to a visit Leicester shop, that's my very last photograph. Then, thank you Nathan, look at that, live tweeting at the top, that's very good. New media, yes, what can I say?
The trouble is, it wasn't there long enough to read what it said.
And coming along today?
Right, how do you
prioritise?
I mean, I don't do an awful lot of opening things and cutting ribbons, unless it's something that is really significant. We still have a Lord Mayor, and as far as I can, I think that those sort of things of, welcoming guests and cutting ribbons are for the civic side of it. Obviously, where there are things like, and we'll talk about the Visit Leicester Centre later, perhaps when we get to it, but things like that where it's high profile, where it's something that's very much associated with what I want to do for Leicester and how I want Leicester to see itself, then of course I'll do it because it helps add profile to it. It reinforces the message that I want to give about trying to make Leicester proud, trying to make itself confident about itself. And I do those sort of events. I also do the Meet the Mayor events, which is just opportunities for ordinary people, and the programme well in advance for ordinary people to turn up, see me and somebody that says the mayor's out in the street and bend their ears. Sometimes it's about their individual issues, sometimes it's about what they think should be done in their particular part of the city, sometimes it's about the city more generally. I do those. And then very much enjoy doing things where I'm doing question and answer with people. Because, that sort of interaction is it's interesting, it's challenging, makes you think differently. And like they always say, it's only sometimes when you hear what you say that you know what you think. So actually to do this sort of thing, to have a dialogue with you, or to do public meetings where people are asking questions, I find an essential part of the job, essential part of making me think and try and explain what it is I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And that's very, very different from how it was when I was council leader. Because council leader, it actually was you. You were accountable to the councillors. Here, in this job, you're accountable to the people, so the interaction with the people is very, very different.
Now, whenever Tina and I ever see you at the weekend, we've invariably got the Brady bunch with us walking along. Lots of interaction and noise, and you're invariably on your way back to B Block with an apple and tucked under your arm on a Sunday normally when we've been for coffee. Do you find it's something that you have to do all the time? Do you take time off? Do you prioritise?
It is a job you could easily do 24/7. I mean, you really could, and I'm obviously going back to a pile of stuff now rather than taking it home with me. But it'd be one or the other. They do pack stuff up in little coloured folders for me. The red folder. The red folder is supposed to be the urgent stuff. It's the equivalent of a ministerial red box, right? The red folder is supposed to be the urgent stuff that I have to read that night, right? The green folder is the less urgent stuff. The clear folder is budget-related stuff. And there's blue stuff, folder that's stuff for reading. So I start with the green folder. I'll work through the stuff for signing. I might read the budget papers. And if I'm really bored, I'll do the important stuff.
Well, I won't even ask where our invite was.
It was in the green folder. Yes. It was in the invitations, actually. I haven't told you the invitations.
Oh, very good. Now, this one here, that was obviously the first.
Oh my goodness!
The first Our Leicester Day event in the market. So this year was the second one. That was last year. So you were mayor here. So we're kind of. Yeah, I threw this one in because I particularly like this picture. Because you dragged these little munchkins around all day. I'm sure you were only visiting, and then you ended up getting interviewed.
No, actually, I mean, you asked what I do with the rest of my time. That's it. That's the answer, actually. And sometimes the two get mixed. I really am enormously blessed. I mean, I really am. I've got 3 daughters, all of them living in Leicester, all of them well settled, and all of them producing grandchildren. It's great. And last time I counted, there were 8 grandchildren. I say all in Leicester. In this modern world, that is very unusual. It's an enormous blessing. I really am very, very lucky.
Do you enjoy this kind of level of interaction with people, sort of face to face? Because you were talking about answering questions, but actually going out and meeting people and wandering around the stall holders.
Yeah,
I mean, that's my usual picture of Simon. From behind.
For example, I went over to Radio Leicester. Went over to Radio Leicester and took the opportunity coming back. You know, we're doing toys on the table this morning. We took the opportunity coming back to go down Lesby Lane, and on the way down, managed to have conversations with at least 3 of the traders down there. You know, just about things in their area and so on. Yes, I do enjoy going out and interacting with people.
Now, the other reason I put this in, obviously,
I'm just laughing at those 3.
they
are a bit of a handful together. They're all very similar age as well, as you can see.
Right, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, right, well, that's me trying to explain.
Obviously, another picture of Andy I've normally got, which is the back of his head as well. Cause,
I didn't know you got that.
I'm looking particularly harassed. What were you berating me about?
Actually, it was quite entertaining, because I was busy taking photographs of everybody else.
Yes.
And you came up and started chatting to me. So
all right.
Okay, great. You know.
I think you recognise a few of us now,
I probably did, yeah.
Now, I have got a picture of you on stilts, but I decided not to put that on there because I was coming in from Chatham House.
I'm really proud of my ability to walk on stilts.
Yeah. There's even film of that on YouTube, actually, if you decide to go looking for it. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's,
do you remember that?
I do, yeah. Rory set that up, I blame him. But no, because he managed the campaign, and he worked for me as an MP. Got himself elected to the council because he's actually from Worktop. He'd worked for another MP before, and he sort of sold himself to me at a regional Labour Party thing and said, "Look, I really want to come to Leicester." It's only afterwards I discovered his girlfriend lives down here. It wasn't working for me at all. No, to be fair, it was actually. It was both. But Rory's been brilliant. He really has. He as I say, worked for me as while I was an MP. Became a councillor. Helped manage my campaign, both in the Labour Party and subsequently, you know, during the election, and has been an absolutely brilliant deputy mayor. Really has. He's enormously enthusiastic and talented, and very able. And to some extent, you know, his I may as well be frank. I mean, his youth complements my somewhat more advanced years.